each other characters, and we just say things like, let's go into the house, but it's all creepy, and we didn't realize it, but that could be a show nowadays, and that's kind of weird. We did that for a long time, and then after college, was it after? Yeah, just about after college in 1987, I was part of a group called, I wasn't part of the group because the group started without me. It was Wednesday Night Live and Jimmy's Comedy Alley, which is where I got this bowling pin. Because it used to be a bowling alley, and they made it into a stand-up club. And Wednesday nights, they wanted something different, so they started an improv/sketch show. And it was the same year The Untouchables came out, whatever year that was. So it was the Back Alley Untouchables, the worst name ever. And we did. It was all short form, and I was working at the comedy club then. I did every job imaginable, and eventually I wormed my way into the group. Literally wormed my way. I was there for all the rehearsals, and they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I just thought I'd watch." And then eventually they were short, and they asked me to play, and I knew all the games, and I did all right. It was fun. It was always what I recognize now as bits. We recognize whenever someone gets this suggestion, they would automatically do this. And even back then I realized that stinks. I went from all sorts of things. I didn't do improv again for years. I was down in Champaign producing a radio morning show. I did overnights, and then I stayed for the morning show. So I was putting in 12 to 13 hours at the radio station from like 9, 10 o'clock at night to around noon the next day. And that, in a way, that's its own improv too. And after that, the station changed formats. I mean, it was already playing Michael Bolton and Mariah Carey non-stop. I didn't see how it could get much worse, but I was wrong. And so I quit that, and it was either LA or Chicago, and I moved to Chicago. My friend John Mulhern was here already. He was, for a time, he was living with me in Champaign and commuting to Chicago, so like 3 hours one way. So that was crazy, and he liked it so much, I decided to come up and try it. And I started taking classes in '95 with Improv Olympic and at Second City the same month. They were weeks between each other. And that was it. I loved it. I really, looking through my notebook, I found a note in Del Close's class. I remember writing it coming off stage, and it was just written like Nicholson wrote in The Shining, and it's in big letters across the page. This is why I'm here. This is why I'm living. And that was it.
That's
and
great.
I've been here for this last month, no, in May, 5 years here in Chicago doing improv. And it was great.
So Del Close was one of your teachers at Improv?
Yes, I was very lucky. I had Del. Back then there were only 3 or 4 levels at Improv Olympic, as opposed to really 6 nowadays. I had Sharna and Miles. There were 4 levels because I skipped a grade because I was special. And I was that good, I guess. I skipped a grade, went straight to Del, and Del and I instantly got along. Oh, he slammed me hard, but we really got along. I was always honored that he remembered my name, because at that point he didn't care what your name was. If you did good work, yes, he did. Because he would need to remember your name to talk to Sharna about you. And a lot of people didn't like him, and I could see why they didn't like him, but for me it was just a real education. And I saw him at a social function, and I told him, we only had 2 classes with him. I said, "Hi, I don't know if you know me, I'm in class right now, and it's the first time I can actually feel myself learning." And he just turned to me and said, "It's because the first time you have a teacher that actually knows what the fuck he's talking about," and walked away. And I was like, he's probably right. Yeah, he was great. I loved him. I really, really liked that guy.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about his history in the improv community.
Del is the father of Chicago Improv, as we now know it. Founding member, it's an iffy thing, but I consider him a founding member of Second City. Even though he wasn't one of the first guys in the cast, whatever, he was in the second group. Big deal. That's within a year, the second group, so that's a founding member to me. Eventually, due to some philosophical and pharmaceutical problems, he left Second City, got caught up with Sharna Halpern in Improv Olympic. And Improv Olympic was not owned by Sharna at the time. It was owned by someone else whose name eludes me, and I'll be in big trouble. And they did short form games, and it was called the Improv Olympic primarily because teams would go up against each other, and the audience would vote under different categories: originality, speed, Could you imagine speed? Horrible. Things like that, and eventually Sharna took over that business, and Dell took over that with her, and they started doing more long-form things, which Dell wanted to do. Dell's dream, which has not yet been realized in my mind, was an improvised play. Murder mystery, comedy, musical, doesn't matter. He wanted a whole play, and we haven't done it yet, and that bothers me a little. Something we should be trying to do, and I don't think anyone's even trying to do it. I think we think about it as improv too much. But Dell really wanted us to think of us that way, and think of ourselves as think of the art that way, and that's why he was so important. Second City's philosophy was, and still is, very firmly, improv is a means to an end. It's great for to derive scenes, to derive songs, but Bernie Salins, who was Dell's best friend and arch enemy at the same time, didn't want improv to be done in front of the audience at all, because at the beginning of Second City, they didn't improvise in front of the audience. They improvised backstage, and when they were working on a new show, they would improvise all day, or whenever they could, and when they finally thought it was time, let's improvise and record this, and this is way back 50s and 60s, they would hire a stenographer for the day. And the stenographer would sit there and they go, okay, now record this, and they'd re-improvise the scene. Wow. And that blows my mind, because in a way, you'd have to be really, really sure, yeah, this is it, because the stenographer's going to write it down. And they pay for the transcription and everything, and that would become the shows. And eventually they're like, let's just do it in front of an audience, and the audience loved it, and to make it palatable for the audience as well, they throw in some games, or they do real short scenes, things like that, like Wacky Profession, ailment, and they do a scene, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. But that became what Second City was known for, and Del was sick of it, doing the same setup, and he just wanted to do longer forms, and the long form. I have friends in other communities, and I'm online, so I know all the other communities, and they consider Chicago very snotty, and they are absolutely right. We are snobs and jerks, and I consider myself a snob and a jerk. I step back when I see improv shows, and I think, all right, do I actually not like it, or am I just being a snob? And it's hard to separate the two. But most people even in improv don't realize what the effect Del had. Like, if anyone is doing long form and not games, you owe Del a word of thanks. Period. End of discussion. Because I don't think it would exist anywhere. I'm sure it would exist, but I don't think it would exist as big as it does now. As big as it is now.
Yeah. So, what are some other differences you find between the Chicago improv community and communities other in the country?
We are so lucky. We have improv here that I have done the worst improv, the most pandering, stupid improv, genre-based improv there is. If we're going to make comparisons to the film industry, I'm the Roger Corman of improv. I've done improv shows based on Star Trek, improv shows based on comic books, improv shows based on slasher movies, just whatever, and I do it because it's palatable, and it's a way to make a buck off improv. Do I like it? Yes. Do I want to do it for the rest of my life? No. But they're still doing that, and they think that's the high point of it in other places. Chicago, we still have shows that strive for art, and other places do it, but really I think their primary goal is the laugh, and it's so seductive, the laugh. Yeah. And I'm trying to get away from it. I get sucked into doing other things for the laughs, and we all do, I think. But that's what everyone else is doing still. I think everyone else, and again, this is being snotty and stuck up the whole thing, I think everyone else is 20 years behind Chicago in improv, and this will get me beat up by other cities. I'm friends with people in Seattle, I'm friends with people in Hawaii, and of course New York City is a great bastion of improv nowadays, but what they do is so fast and so going for the laugh as opposed to, I don't know, drama, improvised drama. It's really hard. And again, I don't live in these cities. I don't see what shows go up and fail, and they're only the shows I hear about. So, who knows?
Okay. What do you do in your life besides improv? I know you work at the Improv Olympic. If you could talk a little bit about that, and then if you have any other jobs.
Sure.
Cool.
Improv-wise, I counted the hours the other day, and I spend almost 50 to 60 hours a week at Improv Olympic.
Wow.
Either as director of the training center, coaching, performing myself, coaching meaning also watching shows, troubleshooting at Improv Olympic. It's about 60 hours a week out of my time. And it pays quite well, actually, a lot more than my predecessors were paid. But I also have a day job. I work there about 35 to 40 hours a week at Richardson Attorney Specialized Investment Services. And I love those guys. God bless them. I was a temp there, and they asked me to stay. I don't know why, but they love me, and I analyze stock data maybe once a week. And the rest of the week, I am administrative support, which means I keep this fridge stocked. We have 14 different kinds of soda, and I'm in charge of those. I'm in charge of updating people who missed the last episode of Survivor. And, it's a pretty good gig.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it's a great gig, and they love me, and I love them, and they ask me to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they come see my shows, and that to me was the biggest thing. I became a full-time employee in November. In December, just about everyone in the company came to see my rancid, my rancid Space Trek, improvised Star Trek episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it was that rancid, but to outsiders, for people who don't like Star Trek and people who don't like improv, that show was no good. But to us, it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So they came to see, and that was really nice of them. So I work there. I also am a freelance writer / editor for Performing, theatrical periodical. They come out weekly, so I don't know, it's a periodical, I guess. I just quit being the normal improv columnist, just because I have too much, I don't have time for it. But they said I can write op-ed pieces when I want or need to, and I'll help them coordinate improv events, like when the festival comes, or anniversaries, crap like that. I also, the Playground, which is, they like to build the nation's first improv co-op. I have no idea what that means. They used to be a co-op in that the box office receipts was distributed to the people at the end of the night. To me, that's a co-op. That's no longer the case. The money goes into a bank account under a non-for-profit thing or whatever, and is used for the building. That's no longer a co-op to me.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But they decided to actually finally, for the first time, have some kind of artistic direction.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was like a repository or dumping ground, if you're being unkind, for teams. And I am the first director in the Director Series, which is produced by Fuzzy Curtis and Megan Pedersen, who I adore those two. They don't know that, but I adore them.
They know it now.
They asked me to be the first director in the Director Series, and I am reviving a show I did, the very second show I ever did, which is one of my favorite shows I ever did, called Dinner for Six, which is an improvised drama. It can be funny, and probably will be funny, but that's not the point of the show. The point of the show is really, it's like when Harry Met Sally improvised, but with 3 couples, and that's it, and you see each couple, yada yada, stuff like that. It's fun. It's really good. It's an amazing cast.
So you're working on that
Yeah, I'm
playground
working on that right now.
When does that go up?
It should go up in August, I think. Yeah.
What role do you play as a director for that show? Are you cast in it, or?
I am not in it.
Okay.
I don't like being in shows that I direct.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Alan Alda did it, but I think it's that is the worst thing, I think. Directing yourself is a jerky thing, because you will never be as mean or critical to yourself as someone else will be.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when it comes to acting, because actors are jerks. At the Playground, I helped organize the auditions. I auditioned, and the parameters, and this was very nice, the only parameters with them were they had to be Playground people.
Mm-hmm.
And I made me a little bit nervous, because I had no idea who was at the Playground at the time. But the auditions were fantastic. 3 of the people in the show are currently on Improv Olympic. 2 of them, one of them was, and 2 of them has never been, have never been. And that's great. That's a great cross-section. They passed the audition, and I'm a jerk. I have no patience for people who don't listen. I'm not saying you have to be a great improviser, just listen to instructions. And these guys were fantastic. And it's going to be a really fun show. And the playground's really excited about it. I'm excited about it. So we'll see what happens.
That's great. So describe your role as a director a little bit.
In improv?
Yeah, especially with this show. Or
How do you direct improv? You mean?
Yeah,
Almost?
sure. Or how do you direct improv?
How I direct improv?
Yes.
The format depends on what you're going for. And really, I think the format of the long form, I'm assuming it's going to be a long form, it's going to be a show, it's paramount. And the actors have to serve the format, not the other way around if it's going to be a self-sustaining show. Because people are coming to see a specific thing. And particularly in Chicago, they're very discerning about improv. So with Dinner for Six, we're going for romantic comedy. So that means, and particularly with Dinner for Six, it's romantic comedy, and you are one character for an entire hour. That would be a really long show. That would be James Michener's Improv for an entire hour, and that forces people to interact with each other. And that means there's no way I want to see an hour show about a guy and his butler, or a guy and the wacky waiter. These people have to be friends with each other, have to know each other, family, whatever. I don't know, I don't care, but they have to know each other and relate to each other. And the hard thing is, I've got 3 people in the show who are just drop dead hilarious. Very funny guys. I didn't know they're working at Improv Olympic, and they're some of the funniest people at Improv Olympic right now. I have to beat it out of them. Stop being funny. Because I know you, I've hung out with you, and you're not that funny in real life, because people would punch you. And that's hard to do, because when you're on a stage and the lights are on, you want some kind of response from the audience. And as improvisers, we are trained, our sardines, the seal analogy, is laughter, or a groan. And I have to beat that out of people. And you just say, stop, why are you doing that? Just make people realize what they're doing. And in many ways, it reminds me of Del. I hear that, like, when you hear, oh, I sound like my dad, I kind of sound like Del sometimes. I'm like, why are you being an idiot? Which is something Del would say a lot. Denial is the first thing they teach you, and I denied something in a scene, and he said something to me, I don't know if, it's been a long time since I've dated, but I'm pretty sure if a pretty young lady asked you to dance, you, by God, start dancing. And he was right, of course, so, yeah. And I hear that, just be real. That's for Dinner for Six. Just be real as much as possible. And it's hard to get people from thinking too much. And when we do the Harold, that long form style, you do have to think a few steps in advance while also being in the moment. So it's hard. And this you don't. And so it's kind of easier but harder at the same time. It's learning baby steps again. I really just ask they be real. That's all. I don't want to see accents. That's all hard too. First couple of rehearsals, I had to stop people from doing accents. I don't like characters in improv, to tell you the truth, in any improv. I mean, for games and stuff, sure are characters, but I don't like accents. I can't do accents, maybe that's why, but I don't like them. They annoy me. Unless this person is a dialectician or actually had the accent at one point, I don't want to hear it. And I'm a snob, again, but that's the way I think about things, I guess.
How much marriage is there between your life in the improv community and your life outside the improv community, and what are the lines between those?
I sadly have no life outside the improv community. This is virtually it. All of my friends, yes, I'd say all of my friends are virtue of the improv community. I'm friends with some people at my day job. We may hang out once in a while, but we don't hang out that much. I mean, I'm not about to call someone up and hang out with them. I do have a few friends who are no longer in improv, and we hang out still, but not as much. All my socialization, parties, birthday things, all through improv. And it's hard because it's on too grand a scale to put it on this, but cops say only a cop can understand. Other people can watch movies and read books and everything, but they'll never understand. Same thing with improv. It's like no one is ever going to understand why you have to do your show, then go to Second City to see their set, and then go to this to do that. No one is ever going to understand why you do that. And the people who have wives or boyfriends or girlfriends that understand that, or at least tolerant of it, blows my mind. I'm like, where did you find this treasure? And eventually people break up, and I'm like, well, I completely understand why they broke up. And you're annoying because you're an improviser. My personal life is just, my friends, or my improv. I am the luckiest man alive in that all of my best friends are all on my team, the team I perform with, and some of my best friends are on the team I coach. I'm very, very lucky, and it's hard work. I'm partly planned, partly coincidence.
What is the team you perform with?
I play with the Apache Dancers, which technically, if you add up all of our ages and experience level, we are the oldest team at Improv Olympic. Mm-hmm. Not counting Georgia Pacific because they only play on Sundays. I don't count them as a team. Apache Dancers, we are of an average age of 30, wow, which is pretty old for improv, sadly enough. And so like in improv, I feel like an old man. I go to my day job, I'm one of the spring chickens. That's kind of nice. I go to improv, I have all this responsibility during the day. I'm in charge of making copies of the menu. It's a great deal. Apache Dancers, then the team I coach is Deep Schwa, which I am head over heels in mad love with. Mm-hmm. They're a fantastic team. They're just great, and they get better every day. And in a way, I wish I was on that team. Mm-hmm. They're so good, and they have such a good coach, which is weird. I don't think I'm that good a coach. I just think I'm probably the most attentive coach. Mm-hmm. I've missed 2 of their shows in 3 years. Wow. I consistently give them notes. I berate them if we miss a rehearsal. We plan rehearsals a month in advance. I show up to rehearsal with a plan. I don't think it's that special, but I do it, and I don't know many coaches that do that. Mm-hmm. And I like it. I think it's the benefits I've shown out.
How long has Deep Schwa been together?
I was informed today that July 25th of this month will be their 4-year anniversary.
Wow. Have you always been the coach of this?
No, they were very lucky. They had Susan Messing.
Okay, to backtrack just a tiny bit, Deep Schwa, they've had...
They had Susan Messing, and they had Al Samuels, 2 fantastically talented people, and then just by luck I was sniffing around teams to see if I could coach, and I was only there for a year and a half, and for some reason I thought I could coach, and I fell into them. So I substituted twice for Al. They liked me, and when Al said he couldn't do it, they agreed to take me, and only out of an 8-member team now, only 4 of those people were on that original team.
Really?
Yeah, it's changed that much.
So would you say a coach of a team, is the team responsible then for getting their coach? Does the team kind of lead the coach, or is the coach ahead of a team? What's that relationship like?
It depends. I coach 2 teams, and my position with both teams are completely different. Deep Schwa's been around for 4 years. The other team I coach, your Miami Relatives, has been around for 3 months. So my role is different. And now Improv Olympic assigns coaches. Back then, Improv Olympic did not assign coaches. You just chose your own. But people were choosing weird coaches or inexperienced coaches, and some teams just weren't choosing at all. So Improv Olympic decided to choose for you. Which at the time was good and bad in that, like, oh, these make a lot of good choices. Then other people were like coaching, and you were like, who the hell is this person? The so-called flavor of the month syndrome that all theaters, everyone gets. And the flavor of the month would be coaching. That's no good for anyone. With Deep Schwa, I'm more of a director. And every once in a while, I remind them of our mission objective. And we either agree to it or we don't agree to it. And fairly recently, I said, here's what I see for us. If you disagree, let me know, and we will find a new coach. And they said, no. I said, oh, no, don't answer now. You guys meet on your own and decide, and then you tell me. And they decided to stay with me, and we've been working towards that goal. And the goal is to do the best Harold possible, and to do improvised drama and comedy in one show. That's really hard to do, particularly with a team this funny. But we're getting really close. The last 2 shows were phenomenally close. Sean Halper, the owner of Improv Olympic, saw a show last night and just came back and told us, you are the best team at Improv Olympic right now. And that was really nice of her to do that. And she's known all of them for so long. I mean, these people on the team are her friends. Some of us are our friends as well. And that was nice of her to do that. The other team is brand new, and If half the team, it's their first team, and the other half, they've been around for a long time, and honestly, some of them, it's their not their last chance, but in their mind, they're like, this is my blank amount of teams, and I'm tired of it. I'll give this team one last chance.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it is to make it fun for those guys, and yet still be disciplining and mean enough to bring something productive out of the new people. I think teams after a certain point can almost stop rehearsing if they're still having fun and they're still going someplace. If the goal is just to have fun and the shows are producing something, that's fine by me. But most teams have not reached that point. So with Miami Relatives, instead of being a director, I am a coach. And it's more like a baseball coach. You run basics so they get in sync with each other. That's the biggest thing with this team is the new people have raw talent. And the older people have the same talent, but experience as well. Trying to get them on the same page is a little difficult. Yeah. There are beginning mistakes, of course. But we're getting over it. I mean, their shows have been really well done. And the Deep Schwa, I am constantly railing them for Harold things. I want you to do a Harold. That's it. And Miami Relatives is not going to work. I don't think you can drill that into a team. They will come to it in their own. And I purposely say don't do a Harold. And subconsciously they do a Harold, and it works out great. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I said try to do a Harold, they would screw it up. So it works out very well. It's fun. I like switching gears with both teams.
That's great. You talked about an ultimate goal of yours to be putting on a show that is just a straight out improvised play. Mm-hmm. What has to happen to make that happen? Why? I mean, what's keeping you from putting on a show like that right now?
I have show commitments, which is one thing, and really I don't know who I would use. If someone said, all right, here's a slot and money, choose whoever you want, I don't know who I would choose. Mm-hmm. The funniest improvisers would not be good for this. The quickest improvisers would not be good at this. Where am I going to find actors who can improvise? Mm-hmm. A play is an average, nowadays, a modern play is an average of an hour and a half, hour 20 minutes. Where am I going to find people who can improvise without being desperate for the laugh for an hour and 20 minutes? And that's tough. I also would like to say at the very top of the play, to say, have a suggestion, please. Thank you. And improvise. The only thing we would know in advance is the style we were going to do. In that, tonight we're doing a murder mystery. Tonight we are doing a farce. Mm-hmm. Tonight we're doing a Neil Simon type play. Whatever. And that's it. And then we just improvise the entire play. I would love to do that, and I might get to it this year. I hope.
So you still see it as a very real dream?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, there's no better time for it. If this is anything, this is the gold. Some people say the golden age of improv is past. I say it is now. Mm-hmm. It's popular enough that it can support a show that's for improv groupies, and yet it's popular enough that with the mainstream audience that they might come see it. So it's weird. It's a weird time. Maybe it's Silver Age.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And improv's been commercialized a lot lately. How do you think that things like Whose Line Is It Anyway being redone with Drew Carey and the Drew Carey show, tossing in a whole improvised show? What kind of effect do you see that? Yeah. What kind of effect do you see that having on Chicago improv?
A great effect.
Yeah.
Both adverse and perverse. It's great because now people go, oh, this is what you do. Mm-hmm. And you can say, no, that's not what I do. But they already know what improv is, as opposed to, and they're coming to you. That's a huge thing. People may say, oh, I'm tired of my relatives asking me if we're doing that. I'm like, no, but the point is, they're coming to you and asking about your craft. And I'm reminded, and I hate using this analogy because I would screw up the music analogies. The jazz analogy was when jazz became popular. And people hated it that it became popular. I'm like, big deal. So what, your best and brightest artists now are getting top dollar? That's a problem? If the world's greatest long-form guy can make money by doing short-form games, God bless him. If that's what he wants to do. I don't like it. I don't like to watch it. I'll do it once in a blue moon. It's nothing I'm very much interested in. People who do it, God bless them. Bored me after a month.
So do you see then the talent on Whose Line Is It Anyway as the top long form talent doing short form?
No, just hypothetical.
Okay.
I think Ryan Stiles is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else on the show I'm not very impressed with, particularly since I know it takes about 3 hours to tape one of those half-hour shows. So I'm like, what is going on in those 3 hours?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, give me what team couldn't do an amazing Harold, a half-hour Harold, if they had 3 hours to do it?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. I'm like, how's that show improvised if it's 3 hours?
So do you think there's any attempt to bring long-form improv to television the same way short-form has gone there?
Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
The long-form sensibility. Yes. Long-form improv, is such a creature of the now. It doesn't survive on tape.
Okay.
Just because the audience coming into a long-form show signs a compact with the cast, and the cast is saying, hey, you know what, we're going to take your suggestion, and we're going to go for half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll see what happens, and join us, won't you? And they join, they want, and you know, it's something that all the teachers say when you first start, but I've watched it so long, it is true, the audience wants you to succeed. Mm-hmm. And when you fuck up, they laugh with you. Not laughing at you, they laugh with you. The audience is for long form. It's not theater. You're not actors. They are not a passive audience, and long form demands they be interactive and then passive, and then interactive when the cast asks them to be interactive. So it's a very weird thing. Was TV passive, theater passive, movies passive, short form interactive, and they want you to yell and scream and yell out suggestions. That's fun. That's part of short form. Long form wants that, and then they tell you to shut the hell up. Here's what we're going to do with it. And it's a weird animal, and it's a wonderful animal, and I love it. It's just hard, and we're lucky to have cultivated an audience that likes it. Mm-hmm. Go figure.
So, an audience member watching on a television who removes himself, you think being an audience member at the show is definitely 50% of the experience?
Yes.
Then, would you say?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I would even say even more than that. 70.
Yeah.
If a team has a bad show, they might blame the audience. And that may be a cop-out, but in some ways it's a little bit true, because you definitely feed off the energy.
Yeah. So it works both ways. Then on stage, you mean the audience?
Oh, sure.
Okay. What do you think is funny? What do you find funny? Outside of improv, just...
What do you mean? Like, what shows?
Yeah, what
movies?
television shows, what books do you read that you think are funny, what writers?
I love editorial cartoons. I don't know why. I think they're hilarious, and because I like satire so much, I guess. Like Doonesbury. Why is Doonesbury the only fucking satire in America right now? It really bothers me. There are very few satirists. There are plenty of humor columnists. Like, if I have to read one more humor columnist telling me about the wacky thing about his kids, it drives me up the wall.
So you're a big Dave Barry fan?
God, I just had this argument last night with someone. I can't stand Dave Barry. Most of TV comedy is terrible. And again, it's probably me being a snob. I think Friends is actually pretty funny. Even though I think they sell out for merchandising, and it's a corporate entity. But the writing is actually pretty smart on Friends. Mr. Show, when that was going on at HBO, was fantastic. Upright Citizens Brigade was also weirdly cool. Boy. I like Survivor. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. What else is funny? And Doonesbury just, again, blows my mind.
Yeah. Not to link you solely with comedy, what kind of entertainment moves you?
Boy, it's weird. I don't read, I read so many books, and most of the books I read are nonfiction. Historical, American Revolution. I'm obsessed with. I don't know why, it just is. I'll read any anything on the American Revolution. Biographies, I love biographies. I read a lot, I study a lot of, I studied the paranormal and serial killers and stuff like that, so I'm always scared that like I'll be arrested on suspicion of murder. They'll get a warrant from my house, and there may be no evidence, but there'll be all my serial killer books, all my supernatural books, and a crap load of comic books, and I'll be dead. They'll just, you're guilty, and they'll send me to jail. I love comic books. I read way too many comic books. I think out of loyalty, in that they were my only friends when I was growing up, and because they're still fun. And I'm lucky enough to, that's another art form that has grown and evolved, and it's, you have graphic novels or sequential art novels that will appeal to the masses and are smart and Pulitzer Prize winning pieces. One of the things I got from Dell was a comic book stand. The comic book stand over there makes them like that anymore.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I love that thing.
You know, if I were you, I'd ask Baxter.